Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we're going to be reviewing and recapping the top 16 in the final Econ Cup of this past set, being Wisdom, Sky, and Sea. Or is it Sea and... It says it right there, Wisdom of the Sea and Sky. I always get it wrong. Hopefully I won't get this new one wrong. Secluded Springs, which is going to start this upcoming Friday once all the new cards are out. So if you want to compete in that tournament, well then sign up for the Econ Cup number 5. It's going to be an open format, just like this one was. Now with that, we're going to be going over the top 16 decks and the best placing deck of that archetype, if you will, in the top 16, starting with this EV Box Espeon Sylveon EX deck piloted by Petty9550. Shout out to you. You got 16th with this, and it's a pretty standard EV box. One thing that I do want to note here is that this is running 2 EV bags. I've seen some only run 1, sometimes they run 2, but they're also running a single copy of the non-EX Sylveon and non-EX Espeon, and that provides so much value, especially going into things like Oricorio, but also things that you don't want to give them 2 prize points and you want to save your Espeon EX for later in the game. Honestly, if you're playing in ranked ladder, you're probably seeing a variation of this deck list every other game, if not all of your games. I know for a fact yesterday, I think 80% of my matches were into Espeon EX EV Box decks. So again, shout out to you for getting 16 in the top 16. Moving on to number 13, shout out to Nabrix with a 5-3 score and their unique and only deck list shown in the top 16 running Silvally, Oricorio, and Pichu. I honestly thought this would do a lot better, but it did well enough to get top 16. So shout out to you, Nabrix. And when I say a lot better, I mean more well represented. This is such a tough deck to go into, especially since your Pichu can just charge up your Silvally or your Type Null rather going first, regardless of you not having that first energy. And then second, going on your second turn, you can just retreat your Pichu, evolve Silvally, use a supporter card, and dish out a whopping 100. And then you have Oricorio in the back to counter their opposing EXs. Like Darktinas have a pretty hard time into this unless they can have a way to deal with that Oricorio. So I think it's a pretty good deck. I myself played a variation of this yesterday, but instead of Silvally, we were running Arceus with Zeraora, and it did exceptionally well. That video will probably upload tomorrow. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, shout out to you, Nabrix, for getting the 13th spot in the top 16. Next up is the 10th spot. Shout out to Seedax for getting 5-2, and I believe that's a single tie there. I'm not entirely sure what this number means. I'm still kind of new to this. You guys let me know. I'm pretty sure that's a tie, and they got the 10th spot with a Darkrai Tyranitar, which I am a huge fan of. So let's check this out real quick. And they're also running 2 Druddigons, which is fantastic. Honestly, this makes so much sense. Absolute cook here. Druddigon just sits in the front line. And then when you need to, you can leaf into your T-Tar after you've given your Darkrai at least 4 energy, because why not? They're doing chip damage. And then you could use your energy plunder to go right into T-Tar. Fantastic work. And you also have a giant cape, Rocky Helmet, Nurse Joy. Honestly, this is a cook that I'm probably going to want to try sometime this weekend or early next week before the next set comes out. So shout out to you, Seedax. This is fantastic. I'd imagine this also probably does really well into rank. Next up is the 8th spot with its only appearance in the top 16 being a double-decker Dewey deck, aka Decidueye for those of you who are not hip. But let's see what this deck actually consists of. And it's running the non-EX variant, as well as 2 copies of the EX variant and Pheromosas, which I think is fantastic with this deck because Pheromosa can do the chip damage onto the bench. You evolve into your EX or non-EX and you could just start sniping them with Pierce the Pain, and Sniping Arrow deals with Oricorio. But on top of that, you have How. And a quick note for How only works on the active slot. So if you're sniping something on their bench, How does nothing for you. However, if you're sniping onto their active spot, that Razor Leaf can deal 100 damage, or that Pierce the Pain could potentially deal up to 100. Oh, my mistake. 110 damage, or it could deal up to 130 onto the active slot. We also have some Sustain with Lily and Erica, and double leaf capes. But this is a pretty solid deck. This is a deck that there's nothing new in it other than it's been pretty good into this type of meta, maybe because people forgot about it. So shout out to you, Farouk, for getting the 8th spot in the top 16. Moving on to Super Piece, which has the highest placing Charizard, Stokesard, Silvally deck. And they got 6 and 2. And let's check it out. I think it's a pretty standard deck list here. They are running Flareon. I got cooked yesterday because I forgot this was an option in this type of deck. And I was like, oh, my Oricorio is just going to easily eat. But no, these types of decks include Flareon for the sole reason of dealing with Oricorio, because for 3 energy, you dish out 110. It can also survive at least 2 hits from the Oricorio, unless it's a double, the Giovanni back-to-back. That's not happening, not in this economy. And they also run red to deal with things like, well, rather anything that has a giant cape sitting at 140. I guess that's what red would really deal with. A single Sabrina for disruption, and Lily, of course, Lily for the sustain. And I imagine we're going to keep seeing this deck, and especially a variation of this deck moving forward with the new Entei EX, because now you're freeing up 2 slots in your deck while also including something that can draw for you. Maybe instead of running the Eevee Sylveon, you would run Eevee, not just kidding, Eevee, Entei EX, and potentially a Leaf and a Lyra, and then instead of a Flareon, maybe even a Torkoal. But I'm just throwing that out there. You guys let me know. We'll find out potentially next week in the next tournament what people are running with the new Stokesard build. Next up is the 5th place, D Curry with Buzzwole. Shout out to you. And this is just a staple standard Buzzwole. You Pheromosa, you snipe them, you get them low enough to 120, and then Celesteela is just pivoting everybody. I think this might be an official stat line. I think I have beaten at least 1 to 2 Buzzwoles in the entire ranked ladder this season. Every other time I'm going up against Buzzwole, they have everything they need. This deck, I genuinely think, is still one of the top 3 best decks in the meta in terms of consistency. With the double Cyrus, the Guzma, the red, just being able to pivot and ignore retreat costs is fantastic. Celesteela is amazing. I don't think we're going to be missing that, or I don't think anything's going to take over that anytime soon, unless we finally get that single Pokemon, maybe a stage 1, that says every basic Pokemon's ability is nullified. Because until that happens, things like Darkrai, Giratina, Celesteela, Oricorio are going to continually be oppressive. But if we have that one little control unit, it gives us something to look forward to really shut down decks and potentially grow. But yeah, shout out to you for getting the 5th spot with Buzzwole. Fantastic work. Next up is the top 4, and we got the 4th spot with Crash 12. Shout out to you from Canada. 7-3. Fantastic. Arceus Typhlosion. I love it. I love when I get to see this, because this is a spicy build. I played this last week, or at least a variation of this last week, and it was fantastic. It did so well. Magby, being able to generate energy onto your Arceus and being able to dish out 130 by turn 2 is insane, right? And then on top of that, you have Typhlosion. So if you evolve, that's actually 150 with the burn, which is crazy. I love this deck, but that's not all. We also have Heatran here for 2 energy, can dish up to 80 damage if it has damage on itself, and it retreats for free with your Arceus. It's fantastic. We have an Ilima to bounce our Arceus if we need to. We have a Sabrina Cyrus to disrupt and close out games, as well as Mars for more disruption, and a Cape to keep our heavy hitters, specifically Arceus, alive. So again, shout out to you, Crash, for getting the 4th spot. Now we're going into the 2nd spot, and it's by Oris. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They got 9-2 with none other than Darktina. You guys let me know in the comments, do we still think Darkrai Giratina is going to be super meta relevant in B1? Not this mini set. I still think it's going to be pretty good, but I think once megas come, are we going to see less of Darkrai Giratina, or are we going to see more? Genuine question. Obviously, we don't know, so I'm just throwing that out there. I want to hear what you guys think. But this deck has gotten so much stronger. Instead of going over every single card, because I'm sure you guys already know what this does, it's mainly the supporter cards. The silver and the red card turn 1 is devastating. It's very hard to come back from, especially if they red card you, remove key hitters from your hand, and then they silver your Professor Research, right? On top of that, the Goose, the Nurse Joy, the Rocky Helmet on the Darkrai, the free pivot with the Leaf, everything about this deck is just very hard to go up against, even if you're playing something like Oricorio, because Darkrai can just sit in the back and chip damage, and then you have a Rocky Helmet in the front. So if Oricorio ever hits, they're just knocking themselves out at that point. So fantastic work. Shout out to you for getting second place. And now it's time for the first place winner of the final week of Wisdom's Sea and Sky. I think I got it right. Necro Blaze, who's been competing every single week, and they finally got the first place win with an open format. Shout out to you, 10-1, and it's an EV box, and it's probably the spiciest EV box. It's a full fire type deck, and let's check it out real quick. They are running oh my god, yeah, this is the type of deck that absolutely crushed me while I was running Arceus and the Pichu and the Oricorio build, because I completely forgot about the Flareon. But the Flareon, the 90X, is there to counter Oricorios. But on top of that, we have the Sylveon, the Magby to charge your Flareon, because being able to go that quickly into a 130, again, we just talked about that with Arceus with Magby. So imagine Flareon, who has a little bit more HP, and that could charge itself, and that has potential to do more damage with EV bags and red, and you're destroying almost anything in the current meta. So shout out to you. We have one single Sylveon EX to help us draw. The Guzma's there. There's no Cyrus because Sabrina does exactly what you kind of need. It'll close out games. They're going to pivot in something that will not be able to take that 130 damage or potentially 150 damage with the double EV bags. So again, shout out to you, Necro Blaze, for getting the first place spot. You guys all did fantastic. Shout out to everybody who competes in these tournaments. I'm so excited. I'll be uploading, I think, on Monday, the Econ Cup 5 in anticipation for Secluded Springs. That'll be also on Friday. I'll be competing in that one. So if you guys are interested, head over to limitlesstcg.com and be on the lookout for Xatumi's E-Cup number 5 open format for Secluded Springs. Again, shout out to everybody for top 16 and shout out to everybody who competes in these tournaments. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.